Today I'm going to be comparing the much loved Sigma 85mm f1.8 DG-DN art lens against the revered Zeiss Batis 85mm f1.8 to see which of these lenses is the best 85mm. So as always, let's start the test by taking a closer look at each of these lenses. The Zeiss Batis 85mm f1.8 is priced at £859 or $990 and weighs 452 grams or 15.94 ounces. This lens features a weather and dust sealed construction, including further protection from the elements in the way of a rubber O-ring around the metal lens mount. On the lens body, there's a rubberized focus ring and an OLED display that notes the focus distance while shooting. One thing it doesn't include though is a manual MF to AF switch, so adjusting the focus mode has to be done via the back of your camera. What you can't see from the outside of this lens is that rather uniquely, it features its own optical image stabilization system, which can be activated via the in-camera settings. Okay, so moving over to the Sigma 85mm f1.8 DG-DN art lens, and this thing costs £995 or $1,080 and weighs in at 635 grams or 22.4 ounces. This lens includes a dust and splash proof construction, as well as weather sealing around the metal lens mount. On the lens body, there's a manual aperture ring that can be declicked via a dedicated declick switch. The aperture dial can also be set to auto mode, shown as an A, allowing you to alter the aperture with your camera dials like most other lenses. You can also keep this dial fixed into auto mode using a handy lock switch on the side of the lens. The Sigma also includes a manual MF to AF switch, as well as a customizable button that provides a shortcut to a variety of camera settings. So when it comes to scoring for price, this is quite tricky because technically the Zeiss is a very expensive 85mm f1.8 lens, whereas the Sigma is actually a fairly well-priced 85mm f1.4. However, keeping things within the scope of just this test, I'm going to award both of these lenses a point because they're very similarly priced and there's not much between them. In terms of build quality, both of these lenses are incredibly well built, so they both deserve a point. When it comes to handling, I'm going to give the point to the Sigma because the features that it offers are actually really handy, whereas the Zeiss only offers an OLED screen that, let's be honest, you'll never use, and an optical stabilization system that is a little bit redundant these days as most Sony cameras feature built-in image stabilization anyway. Next up in our test, we need to see how both of these lenses handle when out in the field. I'm happy to report that during testing, both of these lenses work flawlessly with my Sony A7 Mark III's Face Detect and IAF. With IAF deactivated, both lenses were able to lock on and focus quickly in good lighting conditions with no hunting at all. In extremely low light conditions, the performance continued, with both lenses doing a great job of locking on and focusing. So in this round, I think both lenses deserve a point. When shooting in video mode, using the lenses' respective maximum apertures, both of them were able to keep locked onto amber as she walked towards the camera. When we repeated the test at a faster pace, they continued to work flawlessly. As for AF noise, the Zeiss really didn't make any noise at all. And whilst the Sigma was still very quiet, when listening closely you can hear a very faint buzzing sound that was picked up by our camera's built-in microphone. Though despite this, at the end of this round I think both lenses deserve a point. Okay, so it's time to talk about bokeh now, and this is where the two lenses will differ slightly. Now obviously the Sigma has a very slightly wider maximum aperture of f1.4, whereas the Zeiss has a maximum aperture of f1.8. But what does this actually mean for your photos? Well, looking at the results, not a massive amount to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, the defocused area produced by the Sigma when shooting wide open is slightly thicker than the Zeiss, but to be honest, probably not enough for most people to even notice or care about it. Personally, looking at these two images, I actually prefer the bokeh of the Sigma as it appears much softer and more uniform to me. But what do you guys think? Let me know what your opinions are in the comments below. In our bokeh balls test, the Zeiss's maximum aperture of f1.8 means that the balls are noticeably smaller than the Sigma's, and the orbs also adopt a more distinct cat's eye shape at the corners of the frame. So overall, the Sigma has to earn the point in this round. Let's head over to the lens charts now and talk briefly about what they show. When shooting wide open with both of these lenses, at the center, they are very sharp, though the Sigma is slightly sharper than the Zeiss. Neither lens exhibits any signs of chromatic aberration though, which is really good. At the corners, both lenses are still very sharp, though the Sigma is noticeably sharper. And again, there's just no chromatic aberration. When shooting at the lens's minimum focusing distance, the Zeiss this time is slightly sharper than the Sigma, though the downside is that the Zeiss now exhibits a very faint touch of magenta fringing. The Sigma, on the other hand, has no fringing. So let's take a look at some real-world images now, and as you can see, both lenses are capable of capturing stunning portraits. Once I had edited the images in Lightroom, I was really pleased with the results, and I had tons of pin-sharp shots to choose from. Although the lens chart showed that the Sigma was marginally sharper than the Zeiss at a regular distance, in reality, you really can't tell the difference in terms of sharpness even when you start to pixel peep. Also, neither lens had any noticeable color cast, so adjustments in Lightroom were fairly minimal in order to achieve natural looking skin tones. So in this final round, I think it's a close enough result to give both lenses a point. So at the end of the test, my winner, and forever reserving a special place in my heart, is the Sigma 85mm f1.8 DG/DN art lens. In my mind, paying the additional £150 for this lens is well worth it to achieve a lens that has much more useful features, a wider maximum aperture for shooting smoother bokeh, and pin-sharp results even when shooting wide open.